Wow, this episode starts with a bang and doesn't let up. Let's talk about Foundation Season 2, Episode 8, The Last Empress. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watcher Pass, and it's Friday, which means it's Foundation Day. This is Foundation Season 2, Episode 8, The Last Empress. This is the 8th episode in Season 2. There's only 2 more after this, but man, is it getting good. This episode starts with a bang and then just kind of doesn't let up the entire time. My hot take is I definitely think you should watch this. Is this another great Foundation episode? This one is really good from start to finish. I loved the way it started, and then it just kept piling on the intrigue, piling on more potential crises and more issues, and a brewing kind of conflict between the Empire and Foundation. So definitely check it out when it comes to Apple TV Plus on September 1st, 2023. If you haven't started watching Foundation, definitely get going now. There's only 2 episodes left in this season, and it is getting really, really good. So that being said, I'm going to tell you a little more about the episode, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into a recap. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the recap section. If you don't want to know what happens in this episode, I would turn it off then. Before that, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free, and I'll let you know when I get to those spoilers. So Foundation Season 2, Episode 8 doesn't start right where we ended on Episode 7. Remember, at the end of Episode 7, Salvor found that Harry was dead, that Tellum had killed him, and then Tellum unthinked her mind, whatever you want to call it. She falls into the pool. She's face down. You don't know what's going to happen to her. Well, we don't get that answer right at the start, but we do get a continuation of the earlier scene from Season 7, where Empire sent the 2 clerics that were sent to Trantor to open diplomatic relations. They were interrogated by Empire. Harry Seldon's kind of consciousness, Harry Seldon's memory, whatever you want to call it, emanated from Brother Constant. Day had a conversation with Seldon. They kind of made some threats to each other, and then that's when Day said, well, you know what, if their technology is so much better, let's go get it. And he set up a kind of perimeter around Foundation, around Terminus, in order to bring Foundation in line and also get their technology that is apparently so much better than the Empire's. Now, at the start of Season 2, Episode 8, we find out that there is an execution happening. The 2 clerics who were sent for diplomatic relations, remember, they were sent for diplomacy. Well, apparently Empire did not take kindly to them being there and also the things that were happening behind the scenes. So they are set up for an execution. It's a big, impactful start to this episode that draws you in right at the start and then doesn't let up throughout the rest of it. So things I liked about this episode. The first, that execution scene. What a scene. It was so, so good. I'm not used to Foundation starting with such kind of a big, impactful moment. Usually it'll kind of build up slowly. So this was just a great shock, a great surprise. I really loved it. It was so big, so impactful, and it drew me in right from the start. The second thing I liked, look, there is some really great writing in this. Foundation has always had pretty good writing. This one, I noticed a lot of the lines were really, really well written. They're kind of nice double meanings in them. And some of the interactions between the characters, some of the quips between the characters, I thought were really, really well done. The third thing I love the intrigue. Look, I've loved the intrigue the last 3 episodes, and this is no different. There are definitely some plots that are kind of building up, getting ready to spill over. I imagine the last 2 episodes are going to be high impact, high energy, really kind of the culmination of all of this, and I can't wait for it. It feels like in this episode, the pot is kind of bubbling, all the fires of different plots and different schemes are kind of happening, and I feel like the next 2 episodes, that's all going to spill over, and I'm all about that. And the last thing I love, look, I love the music. There was some really good music in that execution scene, and then there was a really, really great, simple kind of song at the very end that tied everything together and really left you with the right feeling, the way that this episode should have ended. So that being said, there really wasn't anything I didn't like. I've loved the last few episodes of Foundation. This one was no different. So definitely check it out when it comes to Apple TV Plus on September 1st, 2023. I'm going to go into a recap now. So if you don't want to know what happens in this episode, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So I said this episode started with a bang. Let's talk about that execution scene. So like I said, the 2 clerics, Brother Constant and Polyverisov, are taken before Empire and are planning to be executed. Now, Empire gives this speech about how, well, they banished Seldon for his heresy. They gave him a planet far in the reaches, and were they grateful? No, they have been plotting to overtake the Empire. They sent their clerics here to preach diplomacy, but in the back end, they have been kind of brewing war against the Empire. And so he is going to make an example of these 2 clerics. He's going to kill them. And Empire is broadcasting this across the galaxy. Really amazing technology, right? To be able to broadcast this across the galaxy. They're even watching it in Foundation. It's like a holographic image of what is happening. And Empire is going to kill them with this collar. It looks kind of like a frisbee disc, a really nice frisbee disc, but you put it over the head, you press a button, and It closes and it opens up. It's a very quick, very clean death, but it is still a death. The first person to go is Brother Constant. And so they put the collar on her and she starts saying a prayer. And it's a really, really good scene. It's very emotional. Like she has basically certain death around her neck and she just starts saying a prayer to Harry Seldon. Some of the people watching the Foundation take it up as well. Her father over in Foundation is watching it, and it is just a wonderful emotional scene. And just as you expect something is going to happen, all of a sudden there's this like big rush and a whisper ship warps right into the execution area. Now the execution is happening on kind of like an outdoor like awning, outdoor kind of platform essentially. And so this whisper ship is able to like warp in. And you remember, you've heard that Foundation's technology is much better. They're able to kind of like warp in much more confined spaces. Well, this is about as confined as you can possibly get. It warps in. The kind of impact of that pushes people aside, causes chaos, causes intrigue, and out pops Hober Mallow. He came to save Brother Constant, probably Verisov also, but mainly Brother Constant. So in the chaos that's happening, Hober's able to locate Brother Constant. Brother Day is none too happy about any of this. He tries to go fight, but Demerzel is holding him down, saying that his aura was damaged by the warp of the ship, and so he doesn't really have his full protection. Brother Day is pretty cocky at this point. Brother Day is pretty angry. He doesn't care. He gets up and starts trying to kill whoever did this. Now, unfortunately for him, it wasn't just Hober that jumped in. Becky, the like demon dog thing, also popped in. She comes out to help protect Hober Mallow, help protect Brother Constant, and she ends up attacking Day. She like pushes him down. She bites his shoulder. She like draws him to the edge. And it looks like maybe Brother Day is about to be killed, but the guards are able to kind of come in, shoot Becky, overpower her. She falls off this tower where the execution is happening, and Brother Day is saved. But he has been injured. He has felt pain. And in all this chaos, Hober Mallow is able to escape Brother Constant. He's not able to get Verisov for some reason. You think it seems like he could have probably gotten Verisov, but look, there was a lot of chaos going on. He wanted to save Brother Constant. He got her there. They jump in the ship. They escape. Hober is able to get the collar off of Brother Constant. It like halfway started, and so they have to choose one or the other. There's two buttons. One will open it, one will close it. It's a 50-50 chance. Oh, it's a pretty tense scene. Hober chooses correctly. The collar comes off, and Brother Constant and Hober jump away from the Empire. They jump all the way back to Terminus. Now, on Terminus, Hober and Brother Constant jump right behind the blockade that is surrounding Terminus, getting ready to attack and take the technology and kind of subdue Foundation. But thankfully, the Hober ship is not detected. They're running in like a stealth mode. They turn off everything that they can so that the ship will kind of like stay in a dormant state. And while they're behind enemy lines, they decide to do the one logical thing that you can do in this situation. They decide to get down. They decide to finally act on the sexual tension that's been between them throughout. They do the deed, and when they wake up, they are about to celebrate. They're getting some wine out, and that is when a bright spotlight shines into the windshield of the ship. It seems like they were not as stealthy as they thought they would be. Maybe there was a lot of noise, but they are detected and captured. Now, Bel, Riose, and Glawen are ready to board the ship. They're ready to kind of take them captive. You don't find out what happens, but I'm going to guess that Bel, Riose, and Glawen don't want to take them captive and like take them back to Empire. They're going to capture them under pretenses and probably join their resistance, because Glawen was definitely excited about what Hober did when he jumped into the Empire, disrupted all of that, kind of challenged the Emperor in a very public, very powerful display. So I think that maybe they're going to try to work with each other, but you don't know. You don't find out. And also during this time on Terminus, like I said, Brother Constant's father was watching the execution, and I really loved how they kind of characterized him in this episode. They really gave him a lot more personality. Before, he was very kind of like stoic. It wasn't very interesting. He didn't have a lot of emotion. This one, he definitely has some emotion, because he's watching his daughter get executed. Hober jumps in, cuts the feet off. He doesn't know if she's alive, doesn't know if she's dead. So there is a scene where he is kind of drinking outside the vault. He kind of like curses Seldon. Seldon's, presence, the other Seldon, whatever you call it, comes out. So we have this wonderful conversation between Harry and Director Cermak. They kind of talk about Brother Constant and why she chose the robes, and how Director Cermak didn't actually want her to choose the robes. It's a really interesting kind of like jab between the two, between like how he doesn't have any religion and she does, and kind of the differences in their perspectives and whatnot. And Harry comes off as a very kind of like understanding person. He is still cold and like very calculating, but he also shows a lot of humanity here when he's talking to Director Cermak, knowing kind of like what type of peril he's in. So I really love this scene. It kind of humanized both of those characters to me, which was very important. Like, I have not liked director Surbeck very much. Harry has been hit or miss the entire time. This was a really nice scene for both of them to kind of like become a little more human. Now, going back to Trantor, you start this episode off with a revelation that the Cloud Dominion has an ability to reverse the memory wiping that Empire has. Remember, like, Empire controls people's memories. They will cut away pieces. That was a big revelation that happened a few episodes ago, where the Cleons were looking at their kind of memory files and found that Cleon the First had way, way more information than they did. Now, two possible explanations. Maybe Cleon the First, they recorded more information from him. They kind of kept building that information. They wanted more fidelity, so they recorded all of his events versus the other Cleons. They didn't care as much. Maybe that's it. Maybe some of their memories have been shaved off if they were incompatible with Cleon the First's plan. That's another option. Or, one thing that's brought up here, maybe Cleon the First is still kind of running things behind the scenes, and that is why his memory continues to grow and continue to be much larger than any of the other Cleons. You don't really know, but one thing you do know is that potentially the Cleons and many other people in Empire's memories have been altered, but the Cloud Dominion has figured out how to change that. You also get a very specific instance of this when Rue is talking to Brother Dusk, and she is talking about Demerzel and how Demerzel has made it clear that she is a threat to the Queen and the Queen's family. And Brother Dusk keeps saying something like, she will always be here as she always has been. It becomes almost like cultish, the way he keeps repeating it, and it's pretty clear that there has been something in his memory, some sort of like trigger where he like cannot either know Demerzel's true purpose or speak badly of her. Every time Rue is asking questions about her, he basically just responds, she will always be here as she always has been. And so this makes it seem like there is something going on with Dusk and then probably the other Cleons, in that their memories are altered, shifted, forged to kind of conform with some other plan, some other thing that none of them really know about. So after that execution scene, after Brother Day got injured, Brother Dusk is pissed. He wants war. He says, this is an act of war. We should go show Foundation, like we should respond to Foundation in kind. And Brother Day has this very strange reaction. He says, no, like, if it comes to war, we will destroy them. We easily can, but I'm going to go out to Foundation and sit and talk with them, which seems very unlike Brother Day and is a very kind of weird character shift. Again, you get the sense that maybe there is something pulling some strings behind the scenes, something that is like causing Day to act a little strangely, maybe like a little erratically. It kind of feels like there's these parasites that I think they get into like ants. When they kind of take over the ants, they'll go outside and they'll kind of stand straight up on a flower and be eaten by a bird, and then that parasite like transfers to the bird, and that's kind of how it continues to propagate. It feels like there is something messing with Brother Day that is causing him to take this very risky, very kind of like bad decision to go out to Foundation and talk with them in person. Like, they don't like him, and if he is there, it is the perfect opportunity for them to maybe take him out when he doesn't have all of his protection around him. So he decides to do this. He takes Polly Verisov with him, and they go on a jump ship out to Foundation. Now, there's a few other things that happen with the other Cleons while Brother Day is out going to Trantor with Demerzel. Brother Dusk and Rue, the kind of like handmaiden, I don't know, confidant of the Queen of the Cloud Dominion, have been kind of rekindling an old relationship. But it's interesting. Like, it feels like they are both using each other to get information, but they also genuinely like each other. It is a very fun relationship to see. But earlier, they discovered that one of the tapestries, the memorials, the like paintings on the wall in Foundation, the pigments were moving. And Brother Dusk is like, that only happens if you're like sitting and watching them, or if they have recently been disturbed, and they weren't in the right spot for it to be moving. So he's like, this is very strange. So after Brother Day and Demerzel are gone, Rue and Brother Dusk go up to this, and they kind of run their finger along it, and a passage opens up, like a secret, almost like a curtain pulls aside, the pigments kind of pull aside, and they're able to go into this secret passage that Brother Dusk didn't know about, which is strange because this has been his home. He should know everything about this place. He doesn't know about this passage. They go down this corridor. Where does it go? Well, you don't find out until the very end of the episode. I'm going to save that for the end because it was a really good ending. Also, while Day and Demerzel are gone, Brother Dawn and Queen Sareth continue their little plot to help propagate Brother Dawn's line and make sure that Queen Sareth does not birth Brother Day's offspring. They meet in secret again in these like corridors using the like this face hologram thing, so they don't look like who they are. They go into like a little side area. Brother Dawn uses the desterilizer. It's very painful, but hopefully the pain is worth it, because afterward, him and Queen Sareth do the deed, they copulate. Maybe they start their own genetic dynasty. You don't know. It's also strange that Queen Sareth would do this now. I mean, this is their only time, but like, Brother Day is gone. You don't know how long he's going to be gone. It seems like the timing might not work out, but it also seems like Queen Sareth has more than just the idea that she wants to bear Brother Dawn's child. It seems like she's going to play the Cleons off each other and potentially cause a conflict that will make her maybe the sole remaining Empress. Who knows? So after Dawn and Queen Sareth are done, Dawn says that she can't allow Brother Day to raise her child. Like, she doesn't want, she clearly despises Brother Day. She's using him to become Empress, to kind of get that power. And then it seems like she probably wants to kind of get rid of him and potentially see who else might step up. Maybe it'll be Brother Dawn. Who knows? But Brother Dawn's like, you can't take him out. Like, if you take him out, they'll just make a new one. She's like, what if we take out the clones? And Brother Day's like, they're still my brothers, which I love, because even though Brother Dawn is like kind of scheming to take over the genetic line, make sure that Brother Day's genetic lineage doesn't populate down, he still doesn't want to cause harm to his like own flesh and blood, his own family. So I thought that was a great line. But then he also says, and Demerzel would still protect them. And Demerzel kind of plays a main role in a lot of these schemes here, even though she doesn't like actively do it. There's a lot of intrigue that happens that seems to involve Demerzel. To follow up on all this, there's a mixed scene where all the different like threads start to come together, and you see Dusk and Rue exploring the corridor. They get to this like room deep in the tower. Brother Dawn comes to the realization that it seems like Demerzel is really only serving Cleon the First. When this happens, in that room that Dusk and Rue are in, a projection of Cleon the First pops up. It says, you want answers about Demerzel's origins? This chamber has been many things, but first it was a prison. Welcome, Cleon the 16th. And you don't know, is it a prison for someone who used to be there? Is it a prison for Cleon the First? Is it a prison for Cleon the 16th, who is now kind of like stumbled into there? You don't know. We will hopefully find that out later. And after all these scenes, Sareth kind of comes to the realization that none of the Cleons, none of the current Cleons wield any power, that Demerzel is Cleon the First's only true heir. She's his forever Empress. And that's why this episode is titled The Last Empress. It seems like that Empress was Demerzel. She kind of served Cleon the First. He imparted things on her, and she has been working to kind of maintain Cleon the First's line throughout. Now, it's weird that she would be supporting this Brother Day ending of the genetic lineage, if that is what she has been doing, but maybe this is a ploy to have some other thing happen. Maybe this is a way to kind of like get rid of the current Cleons and go back to maybe an original non-modified genetic version of Cleon. Who knows? But it seems like Demerzel has been behind the scenes in a lot of this and been scheming this entire time with the idea that she is putting forth Cleon the First's will. Now, that was the big end of this episode. That was the big revelation. But I have ignored Ignis until now, and so now we got to go back to Ignis and kind of figure out what happens there. You find out pretty early on that both Gaal and Salvor are in these cells, these like prisons that are kind of in the rock, like they're underground, they're covered in rocks, and there are these like speakers, these like fan things that are projecting waves that mess with Gaal and Salvor's mental abilities. They are working to like break down Gaal and Salvor's mental defenses to try to get in there and see their secrets. Both Gaal and Salvor have been holding back, have been trying to hide things from Tellum, and this cell is supposed to break all of that down. Now, Salvor wants none of this, and so she comes up with this idea that she is going to use the Prime Radiant, which she has flattened in her coat somehow. Like somehow she has the Prime Radiant. It is like flattened. It is expanded out into like it is expanded out. And so she pulls it out, assembles it back together, does the little like tap, tap, flippy thing. It opens up, and she uses the Prime Radiant to connect to the vault. Now remember, the Prime Radiant and the vault are these quantum entities. They're the same object, just existing in different locations, different times, different types, but they are essentially the same object. So she uses that aspect to connect with the vault, and in that instance, connect with the other Seldon. And while they're there, they have this conversation. She says that she needs his help. The other Seldon is very, very clear that he does not want to know anything that Salvor says, because he is the control group. He is the Seldon of Foundation. He is the Seldon of the First Foundation. he doesn't want to know any additional information because he was put here with a limited amount of information. So the idea is if he learns something else, that will kind of taint this experiment, that will change the results, and that could like change his trajectory, Foundation's trajectory, could change the overall plan. So he is trying not to know anything, but he does agree to help Salvor. He comes with her the same way that she projects into the vault. He comes with her to project into her cell. And while she's there, he looks up and helps her figure out what to do about these discs. They are called encephalic sensors, and they are there to kind of block out Salvor's brainwaves. They're out of phase. They're kind of, I think they're kind of opposite of Salvor's brainwaves. So they're there to collide and eliminate Salvor's brainwaves, presumably breaking down the defenses. But he does say, I bet you could get those, and with the right frequency, they could break rocks, which is an interesting hint for Salvor. Now, before other Seldon leaves, Salvor asks if the second crisis has started, and he says he doesn't know. And then before he leaves, Salvor says that Gaal told her that Hober Mallow will pierce the Emperor's side. And the other Seldon says, you shouldn't have told me that. And Salvor says, I can't tell you what to do with that information. Like, you can do with it as you will. So when other Seldon's back in the vault, he kind of ruminates over this information, and he had described like his Foundation, like his control group, as the left hand, and the Foundation 2 was the right hand. They were like the kind of experiment to see what would happen over there. And as he's seeing there, he says, well, if the left hand can't put its thumb on the scale, then what's the point of having a thumb? And so because of this information, he writes Hober Mallow, and that is what was then projected on the vault. That was what Foundation saw at the very start of this season to like get Hober Mallow. That was why the vault had this weird handwriting of Hober Mallow and this strange like need to have him. So it seems like the vault and the prime rating are existing in different times, right? Salvor contacted other Seldon in the vault in the past to get information about what to do in the present. And now she gave him some information from the present, which then affected the past. It all kind of loops together in a weird time loop thing, but I thought that was a fun touch as well. I thought that was fun to see how that was the reason that Hober Mallow was written, because I thought it looked a little weird when it happened in the earlier episodes, but now we have the answer. So Salvor goes up and she grabs all the discs, which is weird. Like, she can just climb up and grab the discs. Why didn't she just do that at the start and break them so they weren't breaking down her defenses? But what she does is she uses a vine, she puts them all in a line like on her body and turns the frequency up. It kind of like gets louder and like more, I don't know, vibraty, and it causes the rocks to collapse. Now you would think that this would then cause her intense mental pain, but it doesn't. I guess she picks just the right frequency to collapse this, and she's able to get out of this prison. And just in time too, because while this is happening, Gaal is being brought before the entire sighted community, before all the mentalics. She is put on this table, and she is being held down through some sort of like mental process to prevent her from moving. Tellum explains to Gaal that she was born a long time ago, and she was like revered as a god by her people. They like coddled her. They didn't let her do anything. They kind of kept her in this ivory tower, and eventually she became old. And when she became old, she thought it was a little unfair that she didn't really get to live her life, and now she like spent it all in this protected, lonely space. But she did find another individual who had similar mental powers, and so Tellum focused all of her energy to figure out how to move her consciousness into that other individual. And so she worked on that for a year and eventually was able to do it. It was a risky procedure, but she was able to move her consciousness into a younger body, take over that body, stamp down the consciousness that was in there, and move her mind and abilities into a younger Mallow. Now, Tellum has done this every 6 or 7 decades. She has transplanted to a new talented body, and each time she does this, her powers grow. And she said eventually she was able to hear other thoughts, hear other people throughout the universe, and eventually she heard this really brilliant mind about 100 years ago, and she planted the suggestion in that mind to leave her planet. And that is what caused Gaal to solve that problem, to get off of her home planet, to go to Trantor, meet Harry Seldon, and start this whole Foundation railroad going. But that was apparently all because Tellum planted that suggestion in Gaal's head. And now Tellum is going to transfer her consciousness into Gaal. Tellum seems very sick. She's getting old. She is going to do that jump into Gaal. She lies down on the table next to Gaal. There are these plates on top of them with sand that like are forming these symbols. A bunch of the mentalics take these whistles and blow on them, which is going to help align their kind of mental energies, align them for this procedure. Gaal can't fight it. She is on the table. Tellum is on the table too. What happens? You don't find out, because that is the end of that scene. Then we get that Trantor scene where we find out that Demerzel is the true Empress. And that is the episode. That is Foundation Season 2, Episode 8, The Last Empress. What an episode. It was really, really good. Some things for the next one. I think Brother Day will probably be killed at some point. It feels like him going out to Foundation is a very risky maneuver. Either he's going to be killed by Foundation or he's going to be killed by Bell and Glawen in this perfect opportunity to take out Emperor and strike a blow to Empire. I don't know, but it just feels very strange. It feels a very odd move for Brother Day to get out there. But if Brother Day gets killed, what happens to Sareth? Remember, she's only the Empress after she marries Brother Day. Well, maybe she would marry a clone. Maybe she would marry Brother Dawn. That could keep that going. Would Demerzel allow that? I don't know. Demerzel doesn't seem to like Sareth, but she has been supporting this plan ever since. But there must be something else going on because Demerzel seems to have plans on plans, and she's always looking for Cleon the First will. So we don't know about that either. Maybe one of the ideas was that they would take an embryo from Queen Sareth and implant Cleon the First's DNA into it to kind of like make it a pure embryo. I don't know. But there must be something else going on. Now, over on Ignis, I imagine that Salvor is going to come in and stop this meld at some point. I guess one possibility is that the meld could happen, but Gaal is just so powerful that she's able to fight Tella mentally and able to kind of like overcome that. That seems unlikely because Tellum's clearly the stronger mentalic between the two. I think probably Salvor is going to get there and fight her off, and maybe her consciousness is going to be pushed into someone else. Maybe something is going to happen from this fight that then causes the mule to emerge from this series of mentalics. I don't know, but I'm excited to find out what happens. But that is Foundation Season 2, Episode 8. It comes to Apple TV Plus on September 1st, 2023. Definitely check it out, and thanks so much for watching. If you like this review and recap, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.